Hello and welcome to the next episode of Learn With Me Hydrasynth. This is episode 23, Sound Design, One Finger Vangelis. So first, what is Learn With Me? Well, Learn With Me is a series where you follow my end-to-end process learning to get the best out of a synthesizer. In this case, it is the ASM Sound Machine's Hydrasynth Explorer, a relatively compact 37 mini key with polytouch, with polyphonic aftertouch, 8-voice digital synthesizer. 3 oscillators, mutants, which are a type of audio effect, into a pair of filters with a whole host of modulations. I've described all of the features in detail, and now we've started diving into sound design. So first, what do I mean by One Finger Vangelis? Well, you may know that there is a sort of reputation among synthesists for not being keyboard players, and the desire to have an extremely impressive sound, but with very little keyboard playing ability required. I had a quick attempt at making a sound like this, and I discovered that putting all the aftertouch modulations in place took a significant amount of time. So what I'm going to do is try and brush through the sound design, and maybe I'll skimp on details a little like I did in the drone episode. So first, I'm going to put oscillators 1 and 2 to wave scan. I'm going to pick the basic waveform shapes as the wavetable entries, so sine, triangle, trisaw, saw. And in the case of this first one, I'm going to be using oscillator 3 as the high register, this is the mid register, this is the low register. So each one of them is going to be more timbrally complex than the last. So if this upper one is a sine, this one is going to be triangle, this is going to be trisaw. So 1 is my sine, 2 is my triangle, 3 is my trisaw. Oscillator 2, 2 is going to be my triangle. So these are my 3 waves. I'm also going to tune them. So this one is going to go down an octave, this is going to be on pitch, this is going to go up an octave. And this one is going to be sine. So we have a sine wave. Let me turn these up so we can hear them. And we'll play them as a sort of unison. So relatively simplistic, but these tones, in order to make something interesting, when I think One Finger Vangelis, I think chords are going to come out. How am I going to make chords come out? Well, I'm going to be sequencing the pitch of these oscillators, and that's going to be done using these LFOs. So I'll start setting them up and I'll explain what I'm going to be doing. First, I'm going to be using the step, which is the sequencing mode. I'm going to BPM sync them, and they are going to be 1 bar long each. It's because they're going to be chords. The way that I'm going to create the chord progression is, oh sorry, I also like these single triggered, I think. And they're going to be 12 steps. The reason they're going to be 12 steps is I'm going to start with a chord. In this case, I think I'm going with C minor. And then I'm going to have each of those notes follow around the circle of fifths. So I'm going to be playing a minor chord each time. Actually, let me listen. Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do C minor, I'm going to do C sus4. And each one of those notes is going to be making its way around the circle of fifths. So we're going to have the same tonality of chord in each case. And they're going to be a sequence which comes back to where it started. I'm going to turn on semitone lock so I can tune these. And I think that looks correct. So I'm going to copy this by holding save, pressing 3 then 4, save, pressing 4 then 5. So all 3 of these are now identical. LFO 3, I'm going to edit the steps. It's going to start on C. Second note is going to be G. A fifth is 7 semitones, but every 12th interval is equal to where we started. So if I add 7 to 7, I get 14, but 14 minus 7 and minus 12 is 2. 2 plus 7 is going to be 9. So you may note that every second step is going to go up by 2 semitones, which is a pattern we can use to speed this process up. So we've got 2 and 9. The next one is going to be 4 and 11. Then we're going to get 6. Now 11 plus 2 is 13. 13 minus 12 is 1. So we've got 6 and 1, 8 and 3, 10 and 5. So each of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 should be represented in this list. I could theoretically copy this as is and adjust the phase so they all started at the same point, but I think that's much less clear, so I'm going to go through and program these. So the middle note, that was the root note, the middle note is going to be F. So F. Now if I go up to this C, I'm on plus 12, so I want this to be 0. So our two starting numbers are 5 and 0, so we're going to go up to 7 and 2, 9 and 4, 11 and 6. 11 goes to 1 and 8, 3 and 10. So notice that this looks like a phase shifted form of that, which we should expect here. Next we're going to do the G. So this G, upper fifth would be here. So we're going to go down, so we've got 7 and 2, followed by 9 and 4, 11 and 6. Sorry, that goes to 1 and 8, 3 and 10, 5 and 12 is corresponding to 0. So now we have our sequences in place. Now let's have those adjust the oscillator's pitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So we have 3. We set the intensity all the way up to 128 in each case, because this is what is required to make that semitone locking work. So let's play. Okay, so we have something playing, but you may note that in a sense that's rather boring. And in addition to being rather boring, there's no enveloping of the individual voices to differentiate them from one another. So what I'm going to do is use the envelopes to adjust the mixer levels. So I'm going to turn all 3 oscillators down in the mixer, and I'm going to make 3 envelopes which are going to help us here. So I'm going to BPM sync them. The first one is going to be a full bar long, and this one is going to be used for the bass note. Other things we'll need to do, turn sustain down to 0 because we want it to be decaying. Next, we want it to reset every time it gets triggered. We want it to be looping. In this case, looping is not going to be important because of the triggering, but these others I'm going to have shorter than the interval of the LFO. So we're going to need that. And what I'm going to have it triggered by is LFO3. So this envelope is going to be triggered every time this changes value. Now I'm going to copy those over. So 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So envelope 4, instead of a whole bar, is going to be half a bar. And I can have it triggered by LFO4. Even though they're all in sync, it seems more symmetrical that way. This one can be quarter. And it can be triggered by LFO5. And now these 3 envelopes are going to adjust the mixer. So let's set those 3 routings in place. You may note that I tend to quite like doing these in batches because I just find it easier to think about what I'm doing. So I'm going to set these all to, let's say 50 for now. So that's oscillator 1 volume, oscillator 2 volume, and oscillator 3 volume. So let's just play. So you can hear the high note is playing 4 times per bar, this note is playing twice per bar, this is playing once. I feel like the tempo's a little quick at the moment, so I'm going to take it down to say 100 BPM. Yeah, I think if it goes too quickly, you don't really get to appreciate it very much. The other thing that I've already been thinking about here is I would like some one finger opportunity to play. So to me that says, well, why don't we play unison? So what that's going to mean then is that one button press will play density voices all at once. So I'm going to set that to 8, turn detune down. So presently all of them are playing and they're all playing on pitch. So let's detune. Now we have some breadth from the detune. Now let's do some of this analog flavor, which is going to detune various parameters across the entire signal path. Now I'm going to turn on warm mode and random phase. Random phase means the oscillators don't start at exactly the same phase in their periods. Warm mode is a bit of a tilt EQ, which takes a bit of high end off and warms up the low end. And finally, some width. I just have a feeling that one of those doesn't sound quite right. I think it might be this middle one, so I'm just going to have a quick look back. 5 and 0, 7 and 2, 9 and 4, 11 and 6, 1 and 8, 3, 10. That sounds okay. It's just this little interval in the image there doesn't look quite right to me. Okay, that was very strange. That number said 11, but in the visualization, it was not showing me that. I don't know if you saw that. And having changed that, it sounds right. That seems like it could be a bug to me, but let's ignore that for now and let's just continue on. So that's sounding good. I can already hear though that the high-pitched oscillator sounds a little bit too loud. So what I'm going to do is stagger the pitch of the volume of these oscillators. So I'm going to go for 50, 40, 30. All sounds a little better balanced to me. Now I would like to add some filter motion. So I think the obvious thing to do with respect to filter motion would be to use the fastest moving envelope to move the main filter, filter 1. So let's just tune filter 1. Sounding fine, so now let's add some filter motion. I don't want this to be moving too far because this filter is affecting all of the oscillators simultaneously, so you can think of it as a paraphonic routing. So the next thing I think I'll do is I would like to use, to some greater extent, those wave scans. So I'd like to have them moving a little bit, and probably I'll move the pitch of oscillator 3 because I don't have a wave scan available there. So what I've done is I've changed this to a triangle. I'm going to want it to be fairly slow. Let's have it single synced again. And I'm going to use this here, and this here. Actually, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have a second LFO, LFO2, to do that voice. And then I will use LFO2 for the pitch of this. So I haven't actually set up this LFO yet. What I think I'm thinking of doing is have oscillator 3's pitch be modulated by both of these. I'm going to copy this to LFO2, and let me just change the rate a little bit. And now let's go back to the mod matrix. So those two have some pitch modulation, and these two I would like to adjust the wave scan parameter. So we'll have to just do this by ear. I think we just need a pretty small number here. Should be fine. So this is giving us a little bit more motion of the sound. I think I'd like some other elements to the sound here, so I'm going to try turning up the ring mod. And maybe I'll use the two higher pitched sources, so oscillator 2 and 3. So that gives us some inharmonious clang sort of sound, which I quite like, but I don't want it to dominate, so I'll just bring in a little. And next, some noise. Let's just listen to the colors. That blue jumped out at me. Okay, I think that gives us a reasonable sound to start with. I'd like to throw some effects in here, and then I can add the modulations. So effect 1, let's go for a chorus. Okay, let's add some delay. I'm going to go for the stereo delay here because I already have the voices panned out from this stereo width parameter. So I'd like to maintain that stereo width. This is going to be BPM synced because I'm going to try and pick a time division. Dotted eighth sounds good to me. Now I'm going to use the reverb as a brighter tone, so I'm going to make this darker. Okay, sounded good. Now reverb. Hall is good, make it a bit longer. I want this to be bright. So what I wanted to do was take a bit of that booming sound off of the low end. Okay, and last one. Let's try and do an EQ. So I'm going to turn the high gain up, turn the low and mid down, so as I can sweep the crossover point. So just a bit of the high end there. Let's turn the low end up. Now let's try and balance this out. What I might do, thinking that this is going to be the beginning of our modulation, that's to say when I apply pressure, the modulation is going to come in and it's going to make things brighter. So I've turned the high end down and the low end up, just to darken the sound a bit. So I turned in a bit of drive, turned the amp envelope down because I want this to open up with velocity. I might try and use the second filter, just see how it goes. So I'm going to let it take a little bit of the high end out as well. And as we modulate, we're going to try and bring that back. So this all sounds pretty quiet at the moment, but what we're going to now do is go and add the Aftertouch modulations, which are going to be what we play to hopefully deliver this one finger Vangelis. So first thing I would like to do is I would like to have the envelopes apply more to the oscillators, and I would like the oscillator volume to go up. So let's go and do that. So first thing, pitches there. So the mappings to the envelopes to the mixer levels are mod matrix entries 4, 5, and 6. So what I'm going to do then is modulate with poly aftertouch, destination number 4, depth. So I'm going to follow that same pattern for all 3 of these. This one is going to go to 5, this one is going to go to 6. And then let's set these all to poly aftertouch, and I think I would like to retain that sort of hierarchy of the volume, as in the bass one is going to be louder because it's also less timbrally complex. So let's consider something like 35, 30, 25 as values here. So let's just play. So another thing that I haven't done yet, which I will need to do, is I will increase the mapping to the cutoff. So this is depth 7. So let's go back here to the mod matrix, to destination 7, or the aftertouch, and let's just listen. And I'm also going to map that to the filter cutoff, because I'd like the filter cutoff itself to open. And also I would like it to map to the morph parameter, which I turned down. I'd like to bring that back up, so that will remove a little bit of the high cut that's happening in filter 2. So now I think the noise is too loud, so let's mixer, noise volume. So just a little noise in the background. I'm also thinking maybe I want this a little more pad-like, so I'm going to bring the actual mixer levels up for the oscillators. So let's try that. So that's poly aftertouch. I do very much wish there was a button on the panel to use for poly aftertouch as a source, because I use it all the time. So that's 2, and that's 3. So as I turn these up, they will be bypassing the envelope effectively. So I like that. And the highest one. Maybe the filter's opening a bit too much now, so let's try. So maybe these volume modulation depths for the envelope depths, I'll actually decrease them a little bit. So let's take them down to 20, 15, and 10. Then this can probably open a bit more. Okay, so I think that's sounding quite interesting. I think the last thing that I might like to do is I might like to have some changes to the effects. So this is a chorus. I might just adjust the wet dry. The delay, maybe just wet dry as well. The reverb, I think I'll adjust the wet dry and I'll adjust the tone. And for the post effect that's an EQ, I might adjust the high and the low end. So let me try and put those in. So this is going to be one parameter there, one parameter there, two parameters there, two parameters there. Okay. Set this to poly aftertouch. And this is going to be wet dry. And I can just set it now. I'm decreasing the chorus. Next, sorry, I should use mono aftertouch because these effects are, there's only one of them, so modulating per voice doesn't make sense. Actually increase the feedback of the delay and then decrease the wet dry. So now I need to add another slot for that. This is going to be wet dry. And this is going to be mono aftertouch. Sounds okay. And mono aftertouch, going to reverb wet dry. So it's all sounding a bit loud, so I think I'm going to have to adjust the volume of this as well. Mono aftertouch, going to tone, darkening the tone a bit. Mono aftertouch parameter 1. That's the low end. So the low end can drop a bit. And mono aftertouch going to parameter 2. High end can brighten up a bit. Okay, so I think that has all of these working. Let's just listen a little. Maybe what I'll do is I'll also adjust these wave scan parameters just to sort of move them in a slightly brighter direction. So this one is going to be poly aftertouch, this one is going to be poly aftertouch, and they're both going to go to wave scan. So let's just listen for this. Yeah, so we don't want to go too far with this. I'm interested in seeing what happens if I smooth the LFOs a little. I quite like that, so I'm going to go for it. Let's make this. And then this one can be. Okay. So finally, I'll make a little tweak to the EQ on my mixer, and then I'm going to try and do a performance. I had another quick thought, which I'm going to do quickly, which is I would like to maybe animate the detune. Sounds good. And I'm going to animate, finally, the analog flavor parameter. And I'm going to turn on glide. I like the concept that I could add, like, play a different note, so I can go. Not not such a long glide. And finally, I'll add a little bit of envelope here so it continues playing when I release. Now, I shall hopefully demonstrate this patch played using simply one finger, but ideally being of timbral interest. One finger Vangelis, one finger, here we go. So hopefully that sounded interesting to you. I think there are a lot of other possibilities. Note that I actually used all of the mod slots, all 32 of them, but I didn't use any of the macros, and each macro assignment can be used to contain 8 modulations. So I could actually take all of these modulations and pack them into 4 macros and only use 4 mod slots. So I would free up another 28 mod slots for my use. So there is still a lot of capacity here. I also didn't use the mutants. In any case, I don't think I'm going to be doing any more sound design. I think I will do, however, one more episode, and that last episode is going to be my overview of my overall impressions in learning this synthesizer. So I hope that sounds interesting to you, but in any case, and most importantly, thank you very much for joining me today, and goodbye.